All right, this video is to let you know what we're going to be using for our online simulator for lab. And it's circuitverse.org. I'll send you a little uh, guideline for this as well. But pretty much, this is a very easy to use tool. All the there's a simulator. There's a lot of great documentation and examples here. So it's pretty easy to use. You'll probably figure out how to use it better than I will, to be honest. What if you go to the right here? I'm going to try to see if I can do that. Um, I'll shift this. You can log in. When you go to the login screen, I already have signed up, so I'll be able to log in. You're going to have to sign up. When you sign up, use your North Shore email, write down your password so you don't forget it. And then once you do that, I'll be able to add you to my group. That group will be our classroom. So, um, so here's a little example. Once you try to solve start to try to add a circuit, it'll be asked to save. It'll save online. You can also save offline. I just put in this little circuit here. You can see there's a couple of D flip-flops. The output of the second flip-flop comes back around and it gets ORed with a 0. So we get this toggling effect, and I just have it lighting up these LEDs, and we use a clock here. So this is what I'll just create this circuit, and this is what I want you to create initially. So that, let me see if I can select the way to select it all, delete. Let's see if I, way to select everything. The way to select everything, just hold the shift key, hold down the shift key, and then you can select everything. And then I'm going to delete this. Anyway, you hold down the shift key, then you can delete everything. So I'll add this back in. So up here we have an input. I'm going to pull in an input, and that's what I used before. I'm going to, for the outputs, I just had a couple of these. We don't really need LEDs so much in synchronous design, but you will, that helps you see something's moving up and down. The D flip-flops, if you can see this here, when I hover over it, I make this screen a little bit bigger. If I hover over this, I'm told that's a D flip-flop. So I can't make the screen a little bit bigger, but I'll pull in this D flip-flop, and then I'll pull in another D flip-flop. And then to connect wires, I just hold there, hold the mouse down, and I've connected those wires. I didn't really want to connect those two though, so I'll just delete it. I wanted to connect from Q0, and then make that go into D. Yeah, I did it better before. There you go. So it's still going to work. And then I wanted to bring this, hold that down there. I wanted to bring that back around. Gotta let go the mouse, then bring it back around. And then I want an OR gate, so I'll go up here. I'll grab an OR gate, just pull it down in here, and I'll have my input, which I just changed to a 1. I'll change it back to a 0 in a moment. And the order of those will go, wants to move everything. There we go. And then under sequential elements is where my clock is. So that's where my clock is. I'll bring in a clock. We need to take the same clock to each of the flip-flops. And if you make a video that's better than this, I'll give you credit for that. All right, and there we go. So now I've clocked both of my elements, and it's now I see things moving around. If I change that back to, now I can take my outputs and watch them light things up. Sometimes it's easier to see LEDs than to see the zeros and the ones. Get over there. And we'll take this one and we'll pull it over there. So 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. Yeah, so if you want to create this circuit, this D flip-flop circuit, and then you can save it. Save it as like save what I'm going to suggest you do is use your name or your initials, and then test with D flip-flop. Then we can play around with it a little bit. But for example, if I change this to a 0, I change that to a 0, then I get them both to be 1 and both to be 0. I can change that, or I can OR it with a 1. And when I OR it with a 1, I should always get a 0 in there. Or I should always be loading a 1 in here, so I'm not sure why that goes to 0. Maybe that's not an OR gate. Yeah, so I just added this other LED. So the fact that this keeps occasionally going to 0 makes me think that is not connected. I think that might be the issue there. So I will see if we can't fix this. Delete. So it's good to have an error, and we connect. Now that should always be a 1, right? So if that's always a 1, these are never going to go on, because you're always just putting a 1 in here, and you're always going to be putting a 0. If I change that to a 0, now I can get these to go back and forth. So we do have to be careful of our wiring, just like in lab, but I threw that together pretty quickly. All right, circuitverse.org, try that. And make sure you so log in, sign up with your email, and then I'll add you to my group, and we'll be able to start doing virtual labs.